Thanks for tuning in to leftcoastnews.net. News and information from the wacky, sometimes communist, liberal west coast of the United States. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net.
So by now, you've all seen the ongoing struggle in the city of Portland with Antifa at the ICE facility. The months and months of protests and illegal behavior, property destruction, harassment of the residents that live in the city. The city residents are upset with it. Portland police and the city mayor won't do anything about it. Portland police refuse to respond to the ICE facility to deal with these crimes that are happening. They refuse to back up the ICE agents. They refuse to back up the citizens. They refuse to arrest the Antifa thugs that are causing all this hate and discontent. And last night, I think, it probably all came to a head. The popular conservative freelance journalist Nick Sorter has been at the ICE facility for the last several days filming. I've watched some of those videos. All he's trying to do is talk to them and film what's happening. He's not trying to cause fights. He's not trying to agitate them. All he's trying to do is film. And he has every right to do that. Just like they apparently have every right to be there and do all the things that they're doing. And so last night, Portland police arrested Nick Sorter for being there. And I looked up his booking. He's been released. He was released on his own personal recognizance, and there was no bail. But they arrested him for disorderly conduct, second, a Class B misdemeanor. I would love to know what their justification is for him committing disorderly conduct. But the Justice Department got wind of that, Trump's Justice Department, the federal Justice Department, and they've ordered an investigation into Portland police over this arrest. Katie Davis Court also has been there for the last few days. She was assaulted by an Antifa thug, some blacked out, cowardly chick who smacked her in the face with a flagpole and gave her a black eye. No arrests made on that, even though they chased the person who did it. And there was a Portland police liaison there who watched the whole thing and did nothing. The Portland Police Bureau released Sorter from custody earlier Friday, hours after he was arrested on charges of second-degree disorderly conduct, as violent protests broke out near the Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Oregon's largest city. Sorter is a 27-year-old resident of D.C., was arrested alongside 2 Oregon residents, according to a press release from the city's police department. So the Justice Department is demanding that they show what the justification was, what he did, what caused this arrest. Caroline Leavitt held a press conference where she said that the Justice Department would be launching a full investigation into Sorter's arrest and said Trump administration federal funds Portland yet consequences. We will not fund states that allow anarchy, she said. There will be an additional surge of federal, including action and ICE officers. And she's wanting to deploy Portland, trying to Oregon do that from happening currently. But my guess is at the end of the day that's going to happen. And those troops are going to come into Portland. And eventually, all you Antifa thugs are going to find out. So as part of the government shutdown that occurred earlier this week, thanks to Democrats, part of the tactic now of the Trump administration is to start cutting budgets, to start trimming the fat. And one of the fat trimming pieces is going to be a lot of this green energy crap, which is just a big tax grab for you and I, especially here in good old Washington State, where we are feeling the effects of that drastically. Our taxes have gone up immensely in the last few months. Our gas tax sitting around 1 or 2 in the nation as the highest. We're paying almost $5 a gallon for gas. And for what? For what? The Trump administration on Wednesday nixed funding for the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub and several hundred other federally subsidized clean energy projects in Democrat-led states, 16 Democrat-led states. Democrat politicians from Oregon and Washington State immediately cried foul and vowed to challenge what they call an illegal clawback of congressionally directed spending. The Tri-State Northwest Hydrogen Hub launched last year to funnel up to $1 billion in federal taxpayer funding, so the rest of you throughout the country get to pay for our green garbage here in Washington, Oregon, California. You get to kick in your federal tax dollars for that because we just don't have enough. We're being bled dry here. And use of zero-emission hydrogen fuel. Private industry truck makers, transit, and seaport partners were to bring large sums to the table in matching funds over the next 8 to 10 years. Trump administration has vowed skepticism about climate and green energy. Yes, it's all unproven, and none of it can take the place of coal-fired electric plants or nuclear power. But of course, we got rid of all the nuclear plants, or a lot of them, years ago. Now they're talking about bringing them back, which I'm all for that, but in a social media post Wednesday, White House Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought celebrated the cancellation of nearly $8 billion in what he called green new scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda. A follow-up news release that went out under Energy Secretary Chris Wright's name said that his agency determined the canceled projects did not adequately advance the nation's energy needs, were not economically viable, and would not provide a positive return on investment of taxpayer dollars. Yes, that is so true. The hydrogen hub attracted bipartisan support locally. Yeah, can't say much for our Republicans here in Washington, I'm sorry. As a means to create new jobs and meet climate goals, particularly in sectors that are proving difficult to convert directly to clean electric power. Washington Democratic Senator Patty Murray blasted the Trump administration in a statement for playing some sort of sick political game on the first day of the partial government shutdown. You know, you've got these states, ours especially, that just wants to do whatever they want, ignore federal law, harbor illegals, all these things that the Trump administration has warned that they better stop doing, fall into line, follow the federal law. It's not just Trump's idea, it is the federal law. You've let millions of people into this country. You've created all these budget deficits. We have a huge budget deficit in this state, California, Oregon. A lot of it based around giving these illegals free medical care that the rest of us don't even have access to, and using federal money to do that, even though that's illegal and not allowed. And you just continue to do whatever you want to do and thumb your nose at the feds and then think that you can just continue to suck on the feds' tit when it comes to the money. Well, that you're finding out that that's not how it works, and you can file a lot of lawsuits, and your local courts may back you up. But I assure you, when it goes to the federal level, the national level, you're gonna lose. And you're not gonna get this money. So Trump also canceled $2.2 billion worth of energy grants that were supposed to go to a solar farm in California. Again, the solar energy farms are just a waste of time. You could use solar for like individual buildings and things like that, but expecting to build these solar farms that will power cities. And California tested this last year, and I think they were able to power a few 100,000 homes for 10 minutes, and then the batteries ran out. They take up immense amounts of property and space, and for the amount of energy that you get from that amount of space that's taken up, it's not worth it. It doesn't pan out. Why don't you work on a way to, if you don't feel that coal is clean enough, why don't you work on a way to make it so we can burn it cleaner? Natural gas was all the rage, after they decided that nuclear energy was too dangerous or whatever. And so we went to a lot of natural gas here in Washington, and now what have they done with that? Oh, that's too dirty now. That's too bad for the environment. We got to get rid of natural gas. Natural gas is like one of the most cleanest energies you can use. But this state is trying to outlaw it, or they have in parts of the state. For new construction, no more natural gas, because it's cheaper for people, and they'd rather have you on their grid where they control the prices and they can fluctuate the prices and nail you, because this state loves to nail you in taxes and fees and costs. All of this stuff is about money. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, all this green garbage, all these carbon tax credits, it's all about how much money the Democrats can take from businesses and taxpayers. And I'll tell you what, right now, a lot of businesses are leaving this state because the state is not pro-business. It's pro-criminal. It's pro-illegal. But it's pro for taking your money, no matter what side you're on. But when these businesses and taxpayers start moving out of this state, we're going to lose these big businesses that pay a lot of tax. And we're going to be in even more trouble than we are now. State is scrambling. Washington State is scrambling to try to figure out how to make up its budget deficit. And now with federal money cut, they're really scrambling. You can only get so much blood from a turnip. The plebs have just about had enough. All right, this last story, a trio of federal judges sided with the Snohomish County Fire Agency that put several firefighters on leave for not getting vaccinated. The group is continuing to appeal and said they'll go to the highest court in the nation if they have to. In early September, the Ninth Court Circuit of Appeals, liberals, upheld an existing ruling which said that Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue did not violate the religious rights of 8 firefighters who were put on unpaid leave for refusing to get vaccinated for COVID-19 in 2021. According to the opinion written by the 3 appellate judges in early September, there were key provisions within the proclamation that healthcare workers were not required to get vaccinated against COVID-19 if they are entitled to a sincerely held religious belief accommodation, an idea protected by Title VII. The proclamation also acknowledged that through Title VII, such accommodations need not be provided by employers if they would cause undue hardship, according to the opinion written by the court. David Peterson, the lead plaintiff of the 8 firefighters, said they elected to take the route of an accommodation in accordance with the governor's proclamation. However, Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue alleged that keeping unvaccinated crew members around would create numerous issues or hardships. SRFR showed that it faced several substantial costs of accommodating the firefighters' requested vaccine exemption, including the health and safety of its own firefighters and the public. If you are vaccinated, you're protected from someone who isn't. Isn't that the idea? And of course, now we know that that vaccine didn't stop anybody from getting COVID anyway. And it did cause a lot of other medical problems. This is fact. The large number of firefighters seeking accommodations, the risk to its operations, and the costs of widespread absences, the potential loss of a lucrative contract, and the risk of additional liability, the court wrote in its opinion. This included testimony from a medical expert about the risk unvaccinated individuals presented in becoming infected and spreading the infection in a healthcare-related field, no less, which has been proven to be untrue at this point. Jennifer Kennedy, who represents the 8 firefighters, argued against the appellate court in early April, arguing that for 18 months, SRFR worked during the COVID pandemic without a hitch, and the plaintiffs did not pose a threat all of the sudden due to the mandate. True. The firefighters did present evidence of their 2 years of working safely and professionally under SRFR's exhaustive protocols. She argued to the judges who contended the firefighters provided no medical rebuttal to the expert testimony. Kennedy also argued that when the 8 members were put on leave, SRFR still allowed unvaccinated mutual aid crews from other agencies to work alongside their members, calling it an absurdity. And it was. It is. You can go work with other people who aren't vaccinated from another department side by side, but not your own people. This is about as stupid as having to wear a mask into a restaurant until you sit at a table. And then it's okay for everybody sitting at tables around you and near you to not be masked because somehow COVID can't get you at the table. This was amplified by the fact that Peterson was able to join one of those neighboring agencies and found himself ironically working alongside his old crews. If SRFR really wanted to believe that they felt that any unvaccinated firefighter was a risk to its own vaccinated firefighters, they should have amended those contracts, perhaps restricting who was allowed to respond in their district, Kennedy said in the April appeals hearing. Como News spoke with Peterson on Thursday. He and 5 others from the group still work for SRFR, which gave them their jobs back after 8 months. He and Kennedy said they're asking for the case to be reconsidered by a much larger panel of 11 judges within the Ninth Circuit Court due to the implications that the court's ruling could have within the entire circuit and even the country. It's not just about firefighters anymore, it's about all the people of faith who want to have an accommodation in the workplace. The Ninth Circuit presides over 9 states and 2 U.S. territories within the western portion of the country and is the largest of the 13 U.S. courts of appeal. It's for that reason that Kennedy tells Como News the court rarely revisits an appeal case after a ruling and will only do so for special important cases that could set precedent. The Ninth Circuit has just completely disregarded the Supreme Court's Groff versus DeJoy decision, which was designed to strengthen religious rights in the workplace. Instead, Judge Bybee admitted in his opinion that the Ninth Circuit has very little experience in applying the Groff analysis, and thus they need guidance. Kennedy wrote over a text message. She later clarified by text that the court's opinion was written by 3 judges and not just Judge Bybee. Kennedy cites the Supreme Court's ruling from 2023 in Groff versus DeJoy, which sided in favor with a U.S. postal worker who refused to work on Sundays due to his beliefs as an evangelical Christian. Groff claimed that Sundays should be devoted to worship and rest, not secular labor and the transportation of worldly goods. SCOTUS found that Groff asking to be not scheduled to work on Sundays was not a unique hardship for his employer logistically or financially. It's why Peterson and Kennedy feel confident they could have the Ninth Circuit reconsider their case. If not, they're more than willing to bring the case to the Supreme Court to ensure that a firm opinion can be established. Yep. It's going to have to go to the Supreme Court. The Ninth Circuit Court is not going to side in their favor. That would be my prediction. But because they're a bunch of liberal hacks and they just toe the line when it comes to all this garbage that we've endured for the last how many years now? Just one thing after the next of this liberal garbage. They can't just leave you be. They can't just let you live your life in peace. It's just this constant one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, trying to take your rights in one way or another. This is what it's like to live on the left coast.